So let's go ahead and start with just conditional statements. So we're not going to do anything pattern matching yet. We just want to do some on conditional statements. Did we do that? I kind of remember that we did that in person, or did we only do it through the video with conditional only video? Okay, very good. I think we did something with Boolean, face to face, the class before my absence, and then in my absence, I sent you guys a video link that talked about the conditional statement as well as the operators like not, and or. Let's go ahead and get started with that. We'll go ahead and create a blank form, which is basically just our sandbox to contain the code and the control elements that we want to use to illustrate coding. In this case, it's definitely slow. And create a blank form. And here we can, let me just create one that has two text boxes. Oh, let me put it into design view first. And then we can use a button to trigger the operation. Yep, I think next time I will use my laptop computer. Okay, let's switch to properties. Just so that I can see the name. This is text 0, text 1, and then command 1 or command 12. Yep, command 12. Right. So once we get here, we can go to database tool and switch to Visual Basic. Or we can just go ahead and specify the event handler for click for command 12. So switch to event, and then just click on that button, and specify code builder. And now we're in Visual Basic. All right. Let's just say that we want to see whether my name, my first name and last name, were entered in those two text boxes. If my name were entered, it will print one message. If it is not my name, any other thing, it will print another message. So let's just say that that's what we want to do. There are several ways to do it. Okay, I'll just use the simplest way or the most direct way to do it first, and then I'll also give you guys an alternative way to do it, which is kind of more obscure. The most obvious way to do it is to say if, and now we have to rely on comparison between the text box content with the name, tag TAK, and also my last name AUYEUNG. So the first one is text 0, which is the first text box, and we want to look at its value and compare that to my name. So you have to use double quote, TAK and double quote. Anything that you want to compare or specify verbatim as a string, you have to enclose that in double quotes. Okay. Let's just do this part here, okay? Because I don't want to make my program any more complicated until I know that this part works. Okay. So we'll just do an MSG box, message box, and say the first name is tag. That's all I'm going to say. And then the else, which is basically what executes when the condition is not true, I will say, just the opposite. Message box, the first name is not tag. Are there any questions about this conditional statement? A if statement is also known as a conditional statement because this part here, printing out or using a message box to print the first name is tag, is conditional to this particular condition. The condition in this case is a comparison. It can either be true or false. Okay, either the text value, text0.value is tag or it is not. If it is true, it will execute the statement or statements between the if and the else. If the condition is false, if this part is false, it will go ahead and execute whatever is between else and if. Okay, that's the nature of a conditional statement. It is not the simplest conditional statement, but it is a fairly simple conditional statement. We'll go ahead and try this one out and see whether it does what we want it to do. And we'll switch back to form view, and I'll go ahead and put something here. We'll just put tag over here and click the button, and it says the first name is tag, which is exactly what I expected it to do. Now, once I click OK, do you think it will print the first name is not tag? It should not, right? Because a conditional statement will only take one of the two branches, but not both at the same time. So once it has decided to go either this way or the other way, it will only execute that particular branch. The other branch is completely ignored for that round. Once I click OK, the program is done. It does not change it does not print anything after that. Okay. So that's not bad. We can figure out how to do this. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to illustrate how to use a conjunction in this case so that it can match both my first name and my last name. Okay? Well, since I mentioned the word conjunction already, which one should we use? Should we use not, and, or? And. Very good. So in this case, I can also specify and text is it 4.value equals my last name. And of course, the message has to be changed a little bit here. So I'll just go back and say, welcome back, tag. And here I will just change the message and say, you are not tag. Okay. And switch back to access. And this time I'll run the code again. Now let's just run it the way it is right now. In other words, the first name is tag, and then the second text box is empty. What do you think will happen when I click command 12? This is a trick question, okay? Unless you guys type ahead of me and actually tried it, it's a trick question. It won't actually print. It won't say that you are not tag. It will do something else, okay? It's not going to say it is welcome back tag. It's not going to print that. It's not going to print you're not tag. It will give you a runtime error. Okay, it gives you a runtime error because text 4 is empty. When text 4 is empty, it cannot be compared to a literal string. Let's go ahead and see whether that's the case or not. I click command 12. Oh, okay, well, I take it back. I think with a text box, it always works. But there are cases where a variable can be empty, and when you try to compare something that is empty to a literal string, it does not work. So I stand corrected in this case. Okay. Well, let's try to make it print welcome back tag. So all I need to do in here is to specify my last name in the second text box, and then click command 12 again, and this time it prints the welcome back tag. Are there any questions about this conditional statement? No questions? How many of you think that I can put a conditional statement inside a conditional statement? Okay, it's called nesting. Okay, it's called nesting, which basically says you can put a particular type of statement into another type of statement that can have subcomponents. So let's not mess with this one anymore. Instead, I would make another button to trigger that action. So I'll go back to design view and make myself a new button. And specify the action associated with it. Okay. Let's say that we want to replicate the logic of the first one, but we want to do it in a different way. So this time I can do it this way. So the first part, the outer conditional statement is only responsible to check my first name. Okay. Then I rely on an inner conditional statement to check my last name. Now, let me finish up the structure of the program first, and you guys can tell me what I'm supposed to do in each part of this. Okay. If you look at the blinky cursor on the screen right here, what will get me to that point? At the blinky cursor here. Which part of the name matches, which part of the name does not match, or does both components not match in this case?
The first name matches and the last name doesn't.
Exactly. Okay? Because if the first name matches, that's when we will execute this part of the program. Okay? In other words, if the first name in text 0 matches tech, then we'll execute the highlighted portion of the code. So that means, the blinky cursor is blinking here. So that means, if I get to this part here, it means the first name does match. But it does not match the last name, because when we check the last name, which is over here, if it did match, it will print this message. If it did not match, it will go here. So what I can do here is I can simply say, your first name matches, but not the last name. Okay. So we'll leave this program the way it is right here and test it first. Okay, make sure we understand the behavior of this program. Let me ask you another question. Is it possible for this command, for this button, not to give me a message box at all? Under what condition will it not give me a single message box? When the first name is not tag, exactly. Because when the first name is not tag, which means this condition is not true, there's no else corresponding to it. In other words, the else is basically empty. Okay, when you don't specify an else, it is the same as saying the else part is empty, which means it doesn't even print any message when the first name does not match. Okay, very good. So we kind of know the behavior of this code. We'll go ahead and check it. So we'll go ahead and check the behavior of this program. First of all, we have both tech and Aoyang here, and this time we tried command 13. It will print welcome back tech because both of those matched. Then what we will do is we'll change the last name here, and we'll just change it to say Wang, and then press the same button. Then it complains and says, the first name matches, but the last name, but not the last name, which makes sense. Now, if I change the first name again to something else, let's say David, and press command 13, it did not print anything, exactly as we expected. Okay, which is great because this is a very simple example to illustrate not only how to use a conditional statement, but also how you can nest a conditional statement inside another conditional statement. Are there any questions about this sample program at this point? No questions? Okay. Are there any questions about conditional statements in general? No questions? Okay, very good. Now, how can we use conditional statements to validate input, particularly to a program like Access? In other words, if your database has a field called, let's say, zip code, okay, what is the expected format of a zip code in the United States?
5 digits, a dash, 4 digits.
Okay, well, the dash 4-digit, is optional, okay, because that's the zip plus 4, but you need to have at least 5 digits. Would it be okay for me to enter just 4 digits out of 5? Because there's a leading 0, and conventionally we don't write the leading 0. But with a zip code, you do have to write the leading 0. All right. So with everything that we have talked about up to this point, can I write a program to validate that a zip code is really a zip code, or the value in a text box is a zip code? Well, we have string matching. This is string matching using the equal sign here. It means I want to compare the left-hand side to the right-hand side. If they are the same, then the expression returns true. If they're not the same, the expression returns false. We also have other things like Elsif. Okay, the video talked about Elsif, which means if the first condition does not match, it will try to match the second one. If the second one does not match, it will try to match the third one, and so on. So in theory, we do have the mechanism to check for a valid zip code, except the code is going to be extremely tedious. Because what happens is I have to check for every single possible zip code that is possible and see if the input matches at least exactly one of them. Okay? In other words, at this point, if I want to do any type of zip code checking, I can do something like this. I'm just going to write it here because I'm going to erase it later. Okay, so I can say if text 0.value equals 00000, or text 0.value equals 00001, or and so on. So I can enumerate everything from 00000 all the way up to 99999. Then I would have matched all the the basic 5-digit zip code. But as Christ said a little bit earlier, but what if someone puts in the zip plus 4? How many more cases do I have to handle when we have zip plus 4? Or how would the order of magnitude change when we have 4 more digits to match? 10,000 cases, right? So do you think I want to write a program like this for validation? Probably not. Okay. So this is a way to do validation, but only if it is very simple. In other words, if an input field is a gender, it can either be M for male or F for female. This is okay because I'm just looking for M versus F. Having spelling that out like this is perfectly fine. On the other hand, if I'm checking for, let's say, social security numbers, phone numbers, zip code, or anything like that, this is not the way to go because it's way too tedious. Okay, and this is basically a lead-in to pattern matching. Okay, because what we want to do is to be able to match a particular pattern, but without having to specify every single possible case. We want to say, now how would you describe to someone, what a zip code has? Let's say we're just talking about the basic zip code, the 5 digits. I just said it, right? Okay, but what if someone, if you tell someone that a zip code has exactly 5 digits, that person can say, okay, but should I leave a space between the digits? No. So you have to say 5 consecutive digits. Okay, 5 digits right next to each other. So it would be nice if I can somehow tell Visual Basic and say, I don't want to match this string to another string exactly. I just want to see whether this string fits into the pattern described like here. 5 consecutive digits. That's all I want to do. So let's go ahead and find out what we can do with this. I think it is probably best for us to start a new program and not to reuse this one. So I'm going to erase this line here and just start off with a new program. And we'll go ahead and close this one. I'm not going to save it. So we'll go ahead and save, close, close, close. Close to the base. close database. Nope. Nope, we're not going to save anything. We'll start with a new program. Your new homework assignment, by the way, has this component has string matching inside it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create a new program. Create a new form. And specify a text box here. And then a button to specify, to trigger the action. Switch design view. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. So one thing we can do is to use what we call pattern matching. Pattern matching is used, basically uses an operator that we have not talked about. It's not the equal symbol. The equal symbol means exact match. It's not the less than symbol or the greater than symbol, which is matching, which is specifying, should this be listed before the other one or after the other one. What we want to use is the operator that we call like, L-I-K-E, like. So with this, we can just go ahead and see if this works. Okay, if text 0.value, like 0, 0, pound, 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 pound. Pound is, I'll just write this code first, and then we'll explain what it does. Looks like a zip code. And if. Okay, so this is a fairly simple conditional statement. All it does is to compare, or not compare in this case, it's going to match the value of the text box text 0 against a particular pattern specifier. Okay, this is a pattern specifier, pound, 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 pound. And if it does match, then it will print the message, looks like a zip code. So what we'll do is I'm not going to explain what the pound sign means, but instead we'll switch back to access, put it into form view, and try this out. So that this way we can try it out to find out exactly what it does. Okay. So let's go try A, B, C, D, E first. Click the button, nothing happens. It does not match. It does not match the pound, 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 pound pattern. Okay, maybe we should try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead. And it prints looks like a zip code. Okay, because it has 5 consecutive digits. What if I put a space here between the 1 and the 2? Press the button again, nothing happens. What if we put, one more digit to the end? Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then press Command 4 again, nothing happens. So in this case, pound, 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 the 5 pounds specifies exactly 5 digits right next to each other. Each one has to be right next to the other one. Okay, well that's kind of handy. Let's find out whether we can do something else with this code here. And this time I will use this opportunity to also show you the else if, the use of the else if construct in a conditional statement. If it is not 5 pounds, okay, let me check something else. Let me see if it is the zip plus 4 format. The code, you can see that I specify the dash. The dash has no special meaning in the pattern. Okay, it simply says, we have to match exactly a dash, in the place of a dash. So we'll switch back to the form and try this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 still does not match anything because it does not match either one. If I input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it will still say that it looks like a zip code. If I specify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dash 6, 7, 8, 9, then it should display it looks like a zip plus 4 code. Okay. Now that is a pretty handy feature because now you can also specify, say, phone numbers or social security numbers or driver's license numbers. Okay. Are there any questions about the pattern matching concept? Not the detail, just the concept, because I know many of you are asking, probably in your mind is asking, but how do I specify, this has to be a letter in the alphabet? Well, we can do that. We'll talk about that later. Yep.
Can you share your question?
Yep. I have to. There we go. Yeah, that's a dash right there. Are there any questions at this point? If there are no questions, I'm going to log into my website, because the detail of what you can specify in pattern matching is actually described in the notes already. So we'll go ahead and go to the website and look up, the actual details. This is also called regular expression. Okay, when you are specifying pattern matching, it's also called pattern matching. Windows Phone. Well, I guess with the recent discovery of iPhones, tracking GPS and logging the GPS information of its users, maybe Windows or Microsoft has a chance of getting into the smartphone market. How many people have an iPhone? Do you know that your iPhone is tracking your location?
I don't care.
You don't care. It's.
I mean, my bank information's out there. If somebody takes a laptop and forgets about it, like happens, then it's out there.
Yep.
Well, what can I do?
Well, you can complain and tell Apple, it's not supposed to track your, GPS location. Now, Android does the same thing, except in the case of Android, it's only the last maybe day or last week or something like that. The iPhone keeps track of a long period of what you have been to, and when people confronted Apple and said well, I think you should change your operating system or change your software so that you don't keep a log like that, or make it more secure. It's not as easy to access and whatnot. Apple says, can anyone guess what Apple says? We need that information. That's what Apple said. We need that information to provide the highest level of service to our customers. That's what it said. Yeah, you might want to look it up. It's interesting to read it up. Some people found that file, and they use a software to track down all the locations, and it's just interesting how much it tracks on the phone itself. It also sends it back to Apple, so it's not just a file sitting on your iPhone. That particular information is also sent back to Apple Incorporated. So that's kind of interesting. I think I made a mistake of not deleting one of the files. That's okay. Well, I remember enough of that stuff so I can actually talk about it, but you guys have to look up the notes, okay? So that's one of the things that you guys have to do, is to read the notes and make sure you understand all the different possible uses of pattern matching. Okay. All right. So
When you
the
say
next,
read the notes, you mean the
in Moodle.
what's on Moodle?
Yeah, the links in Moodle.
Book thing you have.
Yeah, the links from Moodle, the modules. Yep. The modules. All right. Let's look for something else. Well, before we look for something else, I want to specify one thing, which basically says if I cannot match any one of these cases, I want to say something like I don't know what it is. Okay. So I will just put a message box here and say I do not know what this is. Okay. All right. Let's try something else. Let's see if we can use like to match a name exactly. In other words, I wanted to match my name exactly. Okay, tag Onion. And if it does, I just wanted to print welcome back tag. All right, so this is what I want to try. I want to see if that works. So this time the pattern is no longer a pattern, that matches many different possible cases. It matches exactly TAK space AUYEUNG. I want to see if that works. And then we'll try one really tricky case on top of that. So we'll try TAK space AUYEUNG. Press the button, and of course, it says, welcome back tag, because a pattern doesn't have to be, a general pattern. It doesn't have to match, just digits or, letters in the alphabet. It can be very exact. It can be exactly my name. Now, what if I change the case of my name? In other words, what if I change it to all uppercase? Do you think it will match or not? Let's find out. All uppercase, and the answer is what? It matches just fine. Okay? In other words, like is case insensitive. It does not matter whether it's uppercase or lowercase. It will match, uppercase and lowercase are considered the same as far as like is concerned. Yep.
On your previous program,
Mhm.
where we were doing the conditions, I did lowercase and it still checked it correct.
Yes. When you
That wasn't using like, that was using equals.
Yes. Equal also matches, uppercase and lowercase
Oh,
are
it's
considered the
case
same.
insensitive.
Yep. It's a Microsoft thing, because, it's only in Microsoft products that you will see an implied, case insensitivity. In most other programs, you can specify, you don't want it to be case sensitive, but you have to do something special and say, I don't want it to be case sensitive. In Microsoft products, it is by default case insensitive, and I do not know how to turn it into case sensitive. Okay, that's interesting. But what if I leave 2 spaces between my first name and my last name? What do you think will happen? Like 2 spaces here. So to the human eye, it is hardly discernible. We can hardly tell that there are 2 spaces instead of 1.
Nothing will change.
The program will not match my name anymore. I click it, and it says I do not know what this is, because now we have 2 spaces instead of 1. So the big question now is, can we specify and say, let's let tag specify as many spaces as possible between tag and Onion? Do you think there's a way to do it? Okay. Well, in DOS, what do you do when you just want to specify any number of something? The asterisk. Yep. But in this case, I have to put an asterisk here, which is not exactly what you use the asterisk in some other settings. But we'll do it this way. We'll give it a try and see what happens. Okay. I still have 2 spaces here. I press the key and it says welcome back tag. Okay, that's good. Let's go back to 1 single space. We'll delete one of the 2 spaces, and we click it, and it says your welcome back tag. Now let's do something that is not so smart, okay? Let's put gibberish around here. Okay, it's just gibberish between tag and Young, and click Command 4, and it still says welcome back tag. Well, how can I stop it from saying that? Maybe if I misspell my last name, and not spell the G. Now it does not know what it is. So what do you think the asterisk actually means in a string matching mechanism? Anything, exactly. Any number of anything. Okay? So that means if I said something like this, tag Young, AUYENG, with no space or nothing, there's nothing between my first name and my last name, and press the key, it still says it's okay because the asterisk means any number of anything, including 0. Okay? So it is kind of useful, but I don't think it is really particularly useful. Okay? Because it matches anything, everything. Okay. That is kind of interesting. Now let's try something else. How many people is familiar with DOS? So you can you know how to use the wildcard characters in DOS. When you specify names and patterns. Okay, which one have we not used yet? The asterisk is one wildcard. There's one other one. The question mark. Okay, very good. Let's try the question mark. Okay, so we'll put some question marks here, and specify my last name. And over here we'll say, which Young are you? Okay, all right. So this particular test case has a few purposes. The first one is to illustrate what a question mark means. The second one is to illustrate the importance of ordering the conditions. Okay, so we'll go ahead and give this one a try, and switch back to the form. And since I did not explain what a question mark is, I'll just give it a few test cases so that you guys can see, which one matches and which one does not match. Then you can probably infer, what a question mark means. And over here we'll say, Pat Young. Command 4, and it says which Young are you? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Let's try something else. Let's try Tom. It says which Young are you? What about Tommy? It won't match. Okay? If I use Tommy, then it's not going to match. So what do you think the question mark means in the pattern?
Anything those amount of spaces.
Okay. It's any character. Okay? A question mark means any character. What about digits? Do you think it will match digits? Let's try it. Okay? Let's try 007 Young. It matches. Okay? So digits will match. Letters from the alphabet will match. What about punctuations? Okay. Let's give it a try. Quote, Joe, quote. It does not match. But why don't you think it matched in this case? What is different between all the previous cases that worked versus quote, J-O, quote? Quote, J-O, quote has how many characters?
4.
Has 4. What about Tom? 3. What about Pat? 3. Okay. But there were 4 question marks. It still doesn't add up because of the space. Okay. So let's switch back to the code and find out what is matching what. Okay. When you look at this part here, there are 4 question marks. So that means I can have 4 of anything before Aryang, and it will match. I can give it 4 spaces, it will match. I can give it anything, any 4 characters, it will match. Okay, is that working out okay so far?
So it will match the quote if there was just one?
It will match the quote if I say something like quote T, quote, and then space Aryang, then it will match. Because it just wants 4 characters before Aryang. Any 4 characters will do. Now, is that really helpful for pattern matching? No, it's not really that useful for pattern matching. When you can only specify, these particular items. Okay. What do you think will happen? Let me switch this back, to tag space Aryang here. Okay. So what do you think it will happen when I type in tag space Aryang? Which message is it going to print? Is it going to match the first one and says welcome back tag? Or do you think it will match the second one, which will print which Aryang are you? Because tag space Aryang matches both cases. So which one is it going to print? The first one, okay? Because the comparison, or in this case, the evaluation of the conditions goes from top to bottom, always. Well, let's double check and make sure that that is the case. So we'll specify tag space Aryang, press Command 4, and it prints welcome back tag instead of which Aryang are you. Okay, that is important, because if I change the order of these two, then the result will be exactly the opposite. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just deleting these 2 lines and then put it before the checking of tag Aryang. Okay, this program has no point, or at least this case now there's no point in putting it here anymore. Can anyone tell me why there's no point in specifying this case in this conditional statement? Because it will never match. Okay? Do you guys understand why it will never match? If I did specify tag space Aryang, it will evaluate the conditions from top to bottom, which means it will first match and see if tag space Aryang fits into the pattern of 5 consecutive digits. Nope, it does not match. Then it will match the second one and see if it is a zip plus 4 code. Nope, does not match. Then it will look for the third one. Okay, tag space Aryang does fit the pattern of anything, 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 AUY, EUNG. So this will match. It will give me a value of true. And what VBA will do is it will print the message, which Aryang are you, right there. Even though the next condition also matches, it does not even have a chance to execute. Because as soon as you take one of the branches from a multi-branch conditional statement, it gets out once that branch is done. It does not continue to test for the additional conditionals. It does not test for the other conditions. Well, let's double check and make sure that that really is the behavior of this program. Okay, I still have tag space Aryang here. I click the button, and you can see that it only prints which Aryang are you, and there's nothing else after that. Is that okay so far? The positioning of the conditions of a multi-branch conditional statement is very important. I think I mentioned that in the video as well. But it doesn't hurt to kind of re-emphasize this particular part. Okay, let's try something else. Let's try something like this. Looks like a shortening. Okay. Well, it certainly does not look like a short name to me. bracket A dash Z close bracket, open bracket A dash Z close bracket, and one more time, it certainly does not look like a name to me. So let's go ahead and run the program and see what it actually matches. I think most of you probably can guess that already. Okay, well, let's see if it matches this, okay? A dash Z close bracket, A dash Z close bracket, A dash Z close bracket. And press Command 4. It says, I do not know what this is, instead of looks like a short name. Okay, so the square brackets somehow have special meanings. Let's try something else, okay? Because I'm lazy, I'll just go ahead and reuse the word Tom, or the name Tom. Press Command 4, and it says, looks like a short name. Very good. Let me give it a shorter name. Joe. J-O, Joe. It does not match. Joe does not match. What about Joey? That does not match either. So what do you guys think, the square bracket means in this program? What do you think, open bracket A dash Z close bracket means? It means anything or any letter from A to Z. But each one can only match one single character. And that's why I have to repeat it 3 times to match a short name that has 3 letters. Is that okay? What if I want to match a name that starts with A to Z, but then after that I can have any number of A to Z's, any number of letters, which is what a normal name looks like. Unfortunately, there's no way to do it in pattern matching in VBA. You can do it in MySQL, you can do it in Perl, you can do it in PHP, you can do it in Python, you can do it in just about any other interpreted languages except for VBA. So VBA actually does not give you a mechanism to say, you have to start with A to Z, you have to start with 1, but then after that you can have any number of A to Z's. There's no way to do it in VBA using the like operator. You can do it programmatically speaking. In other words, you can use a loop, you can use the string functions, you can go through your own logic to do that kind of pattern matching, but you cannot use a simple like operator to do that. But in most other programming languages, like MySQL, the ones that I mentioned, you can do that. Also, you can specify how many if you want to. You can specify. I want to have A to Z, but I only want 2 to 20, a range of occurrences of a pattern. You can do that with many other languages. Okay. So are we doing okay so far with the concept of pattern matching? Is that okay? Sorry? A to Z is specifying a range of values for each character. In other words, in this case, the first one has to go from A to Z. The second one is the same way. Now I can change this, okay? It doesn't have to be this way. In other words, I can change the second one to 0 to 9. So now I have to start with a letter in the alphabet. Then I need a digit, and then I need a letter again to make this match. Okay? So I will say this looks like a strange name in this case. Okay, switch back to Access to try it out. Okay, so let's try something that obviously should work. Okay, TOM, instead of TOM, I make it T0M. Okay, it's hard to tell the differences, because the O, uppercase O, and the 0 look about the same. But in this case, it says it's okay. I can also use 1 to specify the I. Okay, so this is T1M instead of TIM, and that should match as well. Yep.
Could you just use instead of the 0 to 9 in that situation, just the number symbol?
Yes, you can use a pound. Yep. But in case you are in a class that talks about base conversion a lot, you can make it 0 to 7 to specify a base 8 number. Okay, well that's kind of interesting. What if I want to specify not a range? What if I want to specify, just a few, possible, letters or characters that will fit into here? You can just list them, okay? You can just use the square brackets to enclose. Without a dash, it's no longer a range. So now you can just specify, what you want to specify in here. In other words, if I want to specify, the letter in between, the middle one has to be a vowel, I can say A, E, I, O, U, and Y. Okay? So now I'm looking for anything that starts with A to Z, anything that is from A to Z for the first letter. The second letter, on the other hand, has to be a vowel, and then the third one can be A to Z again. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this one and see whether we can make it match and then make it not match. Okay, so we can try Tom. Tom should match because T is from A to Z, O is one of A, E, I, O, U, Y, and M is A to Z as well. And it says looks like a strange name, which is not. Okay, we can try something else. We can try Tim, which should also match because I is also in A, E, I, O, U, Y. So that's fine. Let's find a name that won't match.
Art.
Art, A-R-T. The R is not A, E, I, O, U, Y, so this one should not match. And it says I do not know what it is. Okay. Are there any questions about this part here? No questions? Okay. Now, if you go to Moodle, there are 2 homework assignments for this week. One is just basic conditional statements, and the other one has pattern matching in it. Okay. Do you guys want me to talk about that? I might need to reboot the computer to get to that part, because I made a mistake of not deleting a file before I started up this program. So
I had a question about the pattern matching one.
Mm-hmm.
It says you want to guess what the content is in the text box.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want that guessed in terms of a message box?
Yeah, just display just use a message box to tell me this is a phone number, this is a zip code, this is a social security number, and so on. You might be able to go online just kind of slowly, but maybe it's worth it because I don't. If I reboot the computer, that takes a little bit of time too. If I do it this way, I don't have to reboot the computer, but it's also going to be a little bit slow. We'll try. We'll give it a try first. If it doesn't work, then we'll have to reboot it. See if it finds it. Nope, it's not doing it. I might actually have to reboot the machine. no way to do it without having to restart the machine.